What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Ghosted, a paranormal podcast. With your host, Jay Thomas, Colton Spinks, as always. Colton, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good, Jake. What about yourself?
Man, I'm doing great. It's been a great week. We missed last week. We had stuff going on. Then we got a big snow on top of it. So that was nice to see. But man, it's been cold up here in North Alabama. But tonight, guys, we last time we all met, we talked about the mysterious fog, the drones, stuff that's been going on, current event wise. Well, there really haven't been really anything new or anything in the current events to talk about. So we're trying to put our heads together and like, what can we talk about tonight? And we decided to do some cryptid talk. And I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole with that because there's so many different types of cryptids out there. I got a couple I want to share tonight with you guys. Colton probably has a few, but end of it we'll get to a really it's I guess you would call it a cryptid, but I don't really think it's a cryptid because I feel like cryptids are kind of like urban legends. I really don't think this particular thing is an urban legend. So we'll talk about that kind of towards the end of the show. But first off, Colton, um, you know, we um we all know about the Bermuda Triangle and all that. And I'm not saying this particular thing may be the reason why they're having all the issues, but have you ever heard of Bermuda Bob?
I have not.
Okay, so Bermuda Bob, this is in the late 18th century. Is tales of a cryptid known as Bermuda Bob began to circulate among the sailors and merchants of the Caribbean. Okay, pirates of the Caribbean. This all ties into it. So Bermuda Bob, he is a tall, shadowy figure, and he wears like a tatted tricorn hat with glowing eyes. Said that he is reported to haunt the shores of the Bermuda Triangle. So he was once a charismatic pirate. He was known for his cunning and charm. He sailed the seas in search of treasure and most nobly rum, which they all loved back in the day. You know, pirates love rum and all that. His career, his crew, they fear for their lives because he was ruthless. And he just had an eerie ability just to like disappear into the mist. He They say that he could summon storms to scale off rival ships. That way they can, he can get their cargo and rum and all that. Eventually, as years went on, his greed just consumed him. And he devised a scheme to swindle rum from unexpected ships. So, apparently he was he loved rum. It sounds like here. Um, and it says under the cover of night, he would appear on deck, claiming to be a lost sailor in need of assistance. As a sailor, he once he gained the trust of the crew, he would invite them for a drink, share a drink with them, and he would actually drug them and put them in like in a state of, you know, pretty much unconsciousness. Um, he would take their rum and vanish into the night. But as you know, Colton, karma, it always bites everybody in the butt eventually. What happened on this fateful evening? He attempted to do his trick on a ship carrying a cursed rum. It was a batch brewed with dark magic. As he raised the glass to celebrate his latest haul, the spirits of those that he was, wronged by him, surged forth. And it says a ship was engulfed and Bermuda Bob was swallowed by the waves. To this day, sailors claim to see his form, his spectral form, drifting through the fog, searching for the run that eluded him in life. Whispers spread that on certain nights, if you listen closely, you can hear the clinking of bottles and the haunting echoes of Bob's laughter, reminding all who dare to sail the Bermuda Triangle that greed often leads to a watery grave. Some say that you encounter a shadowy figure on moonlit night. It's best to steer clear. So this really caught my eye because the Bermuda Triangle has got its own mysteries surrounding itself, but this is another tale that I'm sure that sailors who have traveled into and actually probably lived through the whole ordeal of the Bermuda Triangle probably have told stories of this. And reading on down, there's actually eyewitness accounts of eerie things happening to them with this story. So I just really thought that was a very interesting cryptid talk per se, because again, it's about the Bermuda Triangle. It has its own little thing, but it's tale that's been talked about since the late 18th century. So, what's your thoughts on that, Colton?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. Pirates, they're kind of glorified a little bit in Hollywood, but I mean, they're kind of
Yeah,
scumbags. They're always stealing and
yeah,
they're dirty and,
mhm.
got hooks for hands. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's crazy. Cursed objects,
yeah,
uh, we know they can be dangerous. And yeah, this pirate died because of them apparently. And yeah, very good story. I mean, I had never heard of that.
yeah. Neither. I found this, and it was, it's very, very interesting. One of the cool things here, it said that if you do run into its ghost per se, um, a lot of people actually he would raise, a glass up, like his ghost would raise a glass up, and it says a lot of sailors would do it that was seen it just to hope that he wouldn't come back on their ship to try to do that again and steal from them. But that's a very, very interesting story. Yeah, yeah, pirates are very glorified in Hollywood, but overall, like you said, they really, they just live on the sea. So, you know, and I'm sure, a lot of ships back in the day, especially in that day, it's just all wooden ships and stuff. I know they didn't have no showers or anything in there. So I mean, they're just sailing and not bathing. They had to stink in them cabins.
Yeah, it's like Vikings too. They're
Hmm.
I mean, in a way, they're kind of similar to pirates, but we all think they're cool. I know we do. I think they're pretty
Hmm.
cool. But man, they were savages. They would go and pillage and kill everybody.
Yeah.
Not good people, but
No.
yeah, they're a little bit similar. Always sailing
Hmm.
across the seas and things like that.
Yeah. Very similar. We could probably do an episode about Vikings eventually, because there's a lot of stuff there about them. Really
Right.
cool about the Vikings though. Even though that they were very savage, like you said, their story and what they did was very, very cool.
Right. Yeah, there's like I believe, my knowledge about Vikings are not that good, but I believe they were pagans. They worship Odin for a lot of the part. Odin, the pagan god, did rituals and things like that. So yeah, there's some crazy stuff with the Vikings.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Colton, the next thing I've got, have you ever heard of the Fresno Nightcrawler? Have you ever seen the video of this thing?
I don't think so.
Well, this happened back in the I think it was in the 2000s. It's on a CCTV camera. And I got a video here I'm going to play, and I know YouTube's probably going to bust us for this, but it's all right. We're not getting paid to do this anyway right now. Once we do, we'll have to figure all this out later. But I'm going to show this video. Let me start sharing my screen here. And we'll watch the video, then I'll get your thoughts on it. And we'll talk about it. Let me go here. So here's the video. I'll do this. Can you see it on your end, Colton?
Yeah, I got it on my end.
Uh, so they calling it a Fresno alien, but I'm going to skip it just a little bit. This is original footage cropped to fill the screen. So as you see, it's a CCTV camera. It's very grainy. So, but as you see, you'll see right up in here, you'll see something come into view. You see that?
Yeah, yeah, I can see it.
It's very, very grainy. But it makes its way across, and then a little bit later, there's a second one that shows up, and almost takes the same as that path, but it's off to the looks like if you're looking at it, it's kind of off to the right a little bit, but it's I mean it don't really have like a torso, or it's got a head and looks like it's got legs. Very, very weird looking thing. And then there's another video from that another instance that happened uh, and on a security camera near Yosemite National Park, and we'll show this one. And there's two of these. You see it right there.
Oh yeah, it looks similar.
It's very similar, and then you'll see one right behind it here,
Hmm.
and they're just barely walking. It's not as fast as the other one, but as you can see, it's just a head with like long legs. It was what it looks like. Now this one in the background is walking a little bit faster, but when it catches up to this one, it will stop right here. I don't know what one that is, but you know, it's it's definitely weird for sure. But they a lot of people are claiming that it's the kind of explanation of it is saying somebody's on stilts running. The alien thing is out there as well. But what is so cool about this? Fact or Fate Paranormal Files, the guys actually went out there and tried to do experiments to make this happen, and their experiment come back inconclusive. So I don't know what it is. It's really, really weird. My initial thoughts is if it is a hoax, that's very, very hard to hoax that. But one thing that leads me to believe that it is a hoax, I was reading on this, Colton. The original CCTV footage has been lost. Nobody knows what's that, not even the homeowner. So it makes me believe that it was a hoax to begin with. But if it's not, I don't know what kind of new cryptid, new being, new whatever this thing is. It's very, very weird looking.
Right, that's suspicious that they lost it.
Hmm.
So it could be a hoax, you know.
Yeah, it could be. But, man, that's just one weird thing. That has been talked about for in that area for a while. I think the last sighting of that was in 2018. I'm trying to look and see if I can find anything else on it, but I haven't. If it was shown in two different places, it could be two buddies who are in on it and maybe hoaxing everybody, but just for a quick 5 second fame. But who knows? That's something we probably need to keep an eye on for the future. Try to see if there's any more footage comes out. Um, but yeah, that's really weird, Colton. Got anything else you want to add on that? Maybe what would you maybe have an idea what it could be?
No clue, you know.
Yeah,
It's weird looking for sure. It don't look like anything else that we have
right.
discussed, you know. Definitely not like a Bigfoot or anything like that. But
And it don't look like a like any kind of animal either that we know of in this world.
mm, no, not at all.
It's
But
weird.
yeah, on the topic of cryptids, you know, just we've talked about a lot about this. Of course, Bigfoot is the main
Yeah.
one that people think of. Dog Man, close second. Chupacabra.
Hmm.
You know, these are all big name cryptids. The Goat Man uh, is a big one. People say they see that thing. That thing looks like, I guess, like a Baphomet type. You know, it's a satanic figure for sure.
Right.
It depicted as that.
Pigman as
Uh,
well.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of weird
Yeah.
stuff out there. That's for sure. Uh, but yeah, Bigfoot. While I'm thinking about this Bigfoot, I've been seeing videos, which it's encouraging but also terrifying. They keep kind of getting recommended to me. I just come across them, and it's more outdoorsmen coming forward, telling about their experiences with Bigfoot and the paranormal. Not just Bigfoot, but like I saw one, and this it was a secondhand story. A guy was telling about a guy, and he said this guy, two guys on a bass boat, and I believe it might have been at night. They was bass fishing in the shallow waters in the reeds, and next to the bank and they just see just a flat out Sasquatch stand up in front of them, terrifying, and they take off, and he sells everything and never goes back.
Wow.
And the same with a hunter sees one just crashing through the forest, through brush. He goes back to deer camp, and everybody's standing there, like as they all meet back up. And he didn't say anything. He loaded everything up, went home, sold everything, never hunted again.
Wow.
And another guy, I'll tell one more. He was hunting hog, I think, wild hog. I think it was in Texas, and he had thermal or night vision, one or the other. It's very popular in Texas to hunt hog because they have tons
Mm-hmm.
of them. We
Yep.
got a lot too, but he was sitting against a tree. This one's the worst, and he moves locations, but he can still see that tree he was sitting up against, and he sees this thing. You call it a Wendigo, I think is what they described it as. It's like a human crawling around, obviously not right. And it crawls over to the tree he was sitting at, and it starts to sniff it.
Oh God.
And then I think, don't let me get this story wrong, but he it looks right at him, and he
Oh.
was looking at it through the scope, and it looks up in the air, and it starts to yell like help, and like a different normal voice,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the classic
Oh yeah.
Wendigo, some say skinwalker, uh, trying to lure you in with that voice,
Mm-hmm.
outside your house in the woods. And he witnessed all of this, and I would rather see anything except for that. And
Right.
he couldn't shoot the thing because just that doubt, because he's looking at something that resembles a human but is definitely not a human. But man, it'd be tempting to pull that trigger, blow that thing's head, blow its head clean off. I
Yeah.
probably, well, I ain't gonna say that, but if it's that terrifying, you might just have to start shooting, because
But what?
that
Yeah.
is terrible.
What the bullets go through it though? You in trouble.
That would be bad. I would
Yeah.
tear out running. But
Yeah.
all these outdoorsmen, I'm hearing these
Yeah.
stories, and we know there's mass amounts because they're out there all the time in the dark, all day, you know, and they see things, a lot of them, and it kind of ruins their life sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But it's good if you talk about it, because obviously you're going to get called crazy. That's just how it is. But then a mass amount of people will believe you as well.
Yeah. And that's really crazy that these these hunters who they they live off what they kill, some of them do, and then they just sell everything and never go back in the woods again. I know an avid hunter like yourself and an avid outdoorsman, I couldn't imagine you seeing something being that scared that you just quit doing all that, because I know you love hunting, you love walking trails, hiking, all that, and just abruptly just stop that forever. I just couldn't imagine.
And I have considered that, it's like, do I want to see something so bad
Hmm.
out there that I would never want to go back? I don't want that to happen, you know?
Right.
Uh, like that's the big part of my life. And I know some people see that stuff and they take it better than others,
Right.
or maybe the encounter is more passive and not so in your face, like terrifying, you feel like you're gonna die. So different with different people. But
Yeah.
I mean, we know about this stuff, we're aware. Imagine somebody that's never gave it a second thought,
Right.
and there's a giant Sasquatch standing in front of them, 12 feet tall. How you going? Your brain is just gonna break. It's
Right.
not gonna. Your life will never be the same. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're past that point. So I think maybe I'd be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to be upfront, and that's why we say do your own research, people, because if you ever do encounter these things, you need to know what your next step is. You don't need to freeze in fear, for sure. You need to, you know, be very cautious, and if you feel like you need to get out of there, get out of there. You don't need to freeze and then panic, because that's when I feel like these things, these Sasquatch or whatever, the Wendigos, has the advantage over you is when you start to show fear.
Right. And that whole Wendigo thing, I never knew what they could be. I
Hmm.
still don't. I don't know. it's less common than the Bigfoot phenomenon and the dog man. To me, it seems less common. uh, how do you figure out what that is? It's not anything that resembles anything else, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's you can't just say a demon, I don't think, because there's physicality. It just seems purely physical,
Right.
or at least for the most part. So maybe one day we can dive into that more specifically.
Right. Right. Well, Colton, our last thing I want to talk about tonight, it's the Eastern Cougar. Now, the Eastern Cougar, since 2011, has been deemed extinct by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. But what is so weird about this is, I guess it's a descendant, I would probably say, or maybe an off breed of the Eastern Cougar. Is something that a lot of people in recent times too have seen, and we're talking about the Black Panther. Now, I think we may have talked about the Black Panther. I know we have on the audio side. We may have touched on it here, but you know, my theory is if the Black Panthers is part of this Eastern Cougar, these things ain't extinct like the Fish and Wildlife is saying it is, because there is some kind of big cat creature out there that people are seeing. I've never seen a 4 to 5 foot tall standing house cat with a long black tail. So people are seeing something, and my only theory into that is a Black Panther.
Right. Yeah, we talked about this on the audio part, right? And
Hmm.
man, we went into depth there.
Hmm.
So we'll just kind of brush it a little bit here. But in the South, especially, and I
Hmm.
know it spreads across the United States. I know in the North, uh, this is the same type of subject, and I know it's big where we live. Is the Black Panther,
Yeah.
and people will say no, they don't exist. It's old wise tale. Uh, and other people will swear it exists because they say they seen it,
Right.
and it's it's mind blowing. I mean, I've saw pictures of mountain lion from around here, unless it was all a hoax.
Hmm.
Uh, I've heard firsthand accounts of this stuff. People saying that they have saw them and saw their paw prints. Uh, one guy, he said he was hunting, I think, and he had kind of circled back on his footprints. He saw his footprints. I think it was sandy, and right by his footprint was a giant uh, cat paw print, which is
Hmm.
terrifying because it wasn't there at first, and
Right.
it was following him.
It's
And
like
he did a
stalking him. Mhm.
yeah, he circled back, so I guess he got out of there. I've heard firsthand accounts of Black Panther, and right, I mean, of course, you can't trust the fishing game. I mean, they only know so much. They can only be in one place at one time,
Right.
and it's like, yeah, I get it. It's so rare that they can't admit it, I guess, and it comes down to a matter of personal opinion, I suppose. What is a Black Panther? I don't know. You got the what do you call it? Melanistic.
Yeah.
So it's in the DNA where it turns the animal black. It can happen
Yeah.
to deer and things like that, but that's super rare. So I don't
Hmm.
even think it's that personally because that's so rare. And you take something rare and then put that other rare thing on top of it. Very unlikely.
Right.
Uh, it's quite a subject. I don't know. You got the jaguarundi, which is a otter-shaped, medium-sized cat, which is kind of rare around these parts, but they are here. They like water. I've heard firsthand accounts of those around here, very close. Uh, there are mountain lions to our west, and
Yeah.
there are Florida panthers to our south, and as well as north of us, like way north. So we're surrounded by these big cats. Uh,
Yeah.
it would only make sense that some would come through, and I
Right.
would bet the house on it that they are in Alabama in very small numbers.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Uh, Black Panther is in a whole nother topic, to be honest with you.
It is.
Uh, yeah. So I mean, people swear up and down they see this thing.
Yeah.
Now, why can't we pinpoint it? You know, it's a large black cat. It almost seems paranormal. I've heard it associated with paranormal once,
Mm-hmm.
with Bigfoot. Don't know. The lady seemed a little crazy. I ain't blame. Maybe she's right. I don't know. She claims some outlandish things, and that was in Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
Talladega National Forest. So I don't know. One day I'd like to see one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something out there, and bringing up the paranormal side of that's very interesting because you see these things, but a lot of people don't see them. Now, I know people like you, Colin, who have pictures, who have game camera pictures of these things in their woods or where they're hunting at. They catch them. I even had I this was back when I was still in high school. Somebody showed me a picture of a Black Panther, quote Black Panther that was on their that looking in their front door. It had got on their porch and was looking in. All I saw was something standing there and had the green glowing eyes. I That's all I could see because it was at night. So I don't know what it was, but they swear it's a Black Panther. But yeah, I'm not sure, man. It's very interesting. Like you said, it's a whole nother topic in itself. But maybe if it is part, of the paranormal, that may explain why there's so many fewer accounts of these things.
Right. And I just thought of another account of this being purely paranormal. It's in a book I have, and I haven't actually got to the part in the book, but it's in there because I read it, separately. And it's a Catholic saint. She's now regarded as a saint, and she was very close to God. And when that happens, sometimes the demonic can target you to kind of, I guess, scare you or veer you off the path.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, very holy people have encounters with the devil more often than an average guy. So once the devil or the demonic at least appeared to her, it came as a black cat, a large black cat, jumped on her bed. That's what I read. So I want to read this in the book, and maybe I can mention again, but it sounds a little familiar, don't it? Sounds a little bit like a Black Panther.
It does.
The demonic can come to you in various forms, and I don't know why, but it could have chose that form.
Yeah.
And we do hear about black cats being associated with the occult, witch, Halloween. Don't know why that is. Maybe that's why it is. Maybe somewhere at some time there was a just some black cat involved in this. I don't know how. Don't know why. Owls too. Again, don't know why. But yeah, just thought of that.
It's very interesting for sure. That we can come back to the Black Panther topic. Of course, we can come back to the Bigfoot topic, dogmen, skinwalkers. I mean, there's all that we barely just scratch the surface on, honestly. But we're wrap up the show tonight. Really fun cryptid talk. I love talking about cryptids because, like you mentioned, Colton, you have your Bigfoots, your dogmen, and your chupacabras. That's your focal point when you talk about cryptids, but some of the lesser known cryptids, and most of them do end up being hoaxes, but it's still fun to talk about because some of these, who knows, it could be a hoax or it could not be. Just like the Fresno night crawlers, I don't know what that is, and I hate that the original CCTV footage is lost. Kind of steers you to thinking it's a hoax, but again, half of me is like, okay, but what if it's not? Then what in the crap is that thing? So that's what cryptids do. They make you wonder and think about, could it potentially not be a hoax? So really fun episode tonight, I think, Colton. You got anything else you want to add tonight?
No, not really. I mean, you hear stories sometimes about people seeing what you might call a cryptid, and there's not even a name for it. It's
Right.
something that we haven't even talked about. It's just some freak of nature, paranormal thing that they see. So I don't know how it works. I don't know where they come from.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're right, and maybe one of these days we might be able to experience something like that. But anyway, guys, thank you for listening. This has been Ghosted, a paranormal podcast with your host Jake Thomas, Colton Spinks. We'll be back next Thursday night with a new episode. Hopefully, we'll get some, maybe some current events happening, maybe some updates of some things that happened in the past. But we'll be right here to share it with y'all. Thank you, Colton, for coming on tonight as always. Enjoyed it as always. And guys, we'll see y'all next Thursday night. We enjoyed it, and y'all have a great evening.